Your brain does not need 8 hours of extra sleep. It does not need a better morning routine with 12 steps and a green juice. It needs 3 minutes. Not a metaphorical 3 minutes. An actual, literal, timeable 3 minutes, done in a specific order, before you touch your phone, before you speak to another person, before your feet even leave the bed. And by the time I get to the end of this, I'm going to give you the exact sequence, in order, the way it was shown to me, because the order is the part nobody talks about. Doing these things randomly gets you almost nothing. Doing them in sequence is what makes the brain actually shift states. But stay for the third one, because the third one is the one that changed how my entire day felt, and it has nothing to do with breathing, and nothing to do with meditation, and it takes 11 seconds. I'm Tokyo Horizon, and this is the Japanese Brain Reset. Before I get into the steps, I want you to understand what's actually broken about the way most people wake up, because if you don't understand the problem, the fix is going to sound too simple to bother with. Here's what happens in a typical Western morning. The alarm goes off. Within 90 seconds, most people are looking at a phone screen. Within 4 minutes, they've absorbed a headline, a message, a notification badge, sometimes several. Your brain, at that moment, is still moving out of a slow wave and REM-heavy state. It has not finished the transition. And you are feeding it the highest stimulation input available to a human being before it has even confirmed what room it's in. This is the equivalent of waking a person up by shouting numbers at them. The nervous system responds the only way it can, with a cortisol spike, and that spike, not caffeine, not stress at work, is the actual source of the tight, wired, behind-schedule feeling so many people carry from the moment they open their eyes. Japan, particularly in the design of ryokan mornings and in traditional practices around ki, treats the first few minutes of waking as sacred transitional time, not because of superstition, but because the nervous system genuinely requires a bridge between sleep and full waking cognition. Skip the bridge, and you pay for it in scattered focus for hours. Step 1. Before you open your eyes, before you move at all, you take 5 slow breaths with your eyes still closed, in through the nose, out through the mouth, longer on the exhale than the inhale. This is not New Age breathing content. This is basic autonomic nervous system mechanics. Dr. Andrew Huberman has explained this specific mechanism repeatedly, that extending the exhale relative to the inhale activates the parasympathetic nervous system through the vagus nerve, physically lowering heart rate and signaling safety to the brain. Most people wake up already in a mild sympathetic state, especially if the alarm was jarring. 5 breaths with a long exhale, eyes still shut, tells the body it is not in danger before it does anything else. That's step 1, and it takes about 20 seconds. Step 2, and this is where people usually skip ahead, don't. Once your eyes are open, you do not reach for your phone. You reach for water. A glass by the bed, filled the night before, room temperature or slightly warm. You drink it slowly, in your bed, before your feet touch the floor. After 7 or 8 hours without a single sip of liquid, your blood is measurably more concentrated, your brain is running on a mild fluid deficit, and every cognitive function that depends on blood flow, which is all of them, is operating below its baseline. Hydrating before you do anything else is not a wellness trend, it's closing a physiological gap that exists in every single person every single morning whether they notice it or not. This step takes about 30 seconds. Step 3, the one I told you to wait for. This is the one that actually changed my mornings, and it's going to sound almost too small to matter, which is exactly why almost nobody does it. Before you get out of bed, you name 3 specific things you can hear, in the room or outside it. Not generally, specifically. Not birds, that specific bird call outside the window. Not traffic, that specific car passing. 11 seconds, 3 sounds, named silently in your head. Here's the mechanism, and this is the part that surprised me when I first read about it. The brain, first thing in the morning, is still partially in a default mode network state, which is the same network responsible for rumination, for replaying yesterday's problems and preloading today's. The moment you deliberately direct attention to a specific external sensory detail, you force a switch from the default mode network to the task-positive network, the part of the brain responsible for present-moment focused attention. This is a documented mechanism in attention research, and it's the same reason grounding techniques used in anxiety treatment ask people to name what they can see, hear, and touch. You are not calming down abstractly. You are mechanically switching which brain network is in charge before the anxious, rehearsing one gets a head start on your day. 11 seconds. 3 sounds. That's the step that made the difference for me, and I suspect it will for you too. Step 4, sit up, feet flat on the floor, and press your palms flat against your thighs for a count of 10. This sounds like nothing, and physically it almost is nothing, but proprioceptive input, the sensory feedback from pressure on your body, has a measurable calming effect on the nervous system, which is part of why weighted blankets work, why swaddling calms infants, why deep pressure is used clinically for anxiety and sensory regulation. 10 seconds of firm pressure through your palms into your thighs gives your nervous system a concrete physical signal that you are here, in a body, on solid ground, which matters more than it sounds like it should when you're moving from sleep to standing. Step 5, and this is the last one, stand up and immediately open a curtain or blinds to let in natural light, even if it's still dim outside, even if it's cloudy. Dr. Satchin Panda's research at the Salk Institute on circadian biology is unambiguous on this point. Natural light entering the eyes in the first minutes after waking is the single strongest input for setting the master clock in your suprachiasmatic nucleus, which governs cortisol timing, alertness curves, and even when your body wants to eat and sleep for the rest of that day. Artificial light does not do this the same way. A dim room does not do this the same way. Even on an overcast day, outdoor light is many times brighter than indoor lighting, and your circadian system needs that signal early to correctly time everything else that follows. That's the full sequence. Breath, water, sound, pressure, light. Under 3 minutes, done in that order, before your phone, before a conversation, before your feet have made a single unplanned decision. I want to be direct about why the order matters, because I tried these in random order for weeks before I understood the sequence, and it did almost nothing. The breathwork lowers your physiological alarm state so the water and grounding actually land instead of being absorbed by a nervous system still in mild fight or flight. The sound step switches your attention network before your first anxious thought of the day gets to set the tone. The pressure step anchors you physically. And the light step, done last, sets your circadian clock while your system is already calm enough to actually register it instead of being one more overwhelming input. I want to tell you what changed for me specifically, because I think the abstract version of this undersells it. Before I started doing this, my mornings had a specific texture, a kind of low hum of behind-schedule anxiety that started the second I opened my eyes and did not fully leave until sometime around midday, if it left at all. I assumed that was just what mornings felt like for a person with a full schedule. It took about 9 days of doing this sequence consistently before I noticed the hum wasn't there anymore. Not gone entirely, some mornings it's still there, but quieter and shorter. What replaced it was something closer to a runway, a feeling of having about 90 seconds of actual spaciousness before the day's demands arrived, instead of the demands arriving before I'd even opened my eyes. There's a reason this works better than most morning routine content you've probably already tried and abandoned. Most morning routine advice adds things: journaling, cold plunges, 20 minutes of reading, a full workout before 7 a.m. All of that requires willpower, which is precisely the resource you have the least of in the first few minutes after waking. This sequence requires almost none, because it isn't asking you to do more, it's asking you to do the next 3 minutes differently, using resources your body already has available the moment it wakes up: breath, water, attention, pressure, light. Nothing to buy. Nothing to schedule. Nothing that requires you to be a more disciplined person than you already are. If you only take one piece of this away, take the sound step. 11 seconds, 3 specific sounds, before your feet leave the bed. Everything else in this sequence supports that moment, but that moment is the hinge, the place where your brain actually decides which network is going to run your morning, the reactive one or the present one. Try this tomorrow morning exactly as I described it, in order, before anything else touches your attention. Don't modify it for the first week. Just do it precisely as given and notice what's different by day 9, the same point where I noticed it. If this shifted something for you, even slightly, tell me in the comments which step surprised you most, because I read every one of them, and I'm genuinely curious whether the sound step lands for you the way it did for me. Subscribe to Tokyo Horizon if you want the next piece of this, because the morning is only the first 3 minutes. There's a version of this same principle that applies to the transition out of work and into evening, and that one I haven't shared anywhere yet. I'll see you in the next one.